Hey guys, so if you didn't know, I started this series on my channel about me writing my first novel and the progress of me writing my first novel. And I started my very first video with me wearing a unicorn onesie because I don't really know why. It was just really comfy. So I brought it back because it's now a tradition to wear this onesie, so hopefully it's not as weird as it seems. So to get back on track, this video is going to be how to get into the headspace of your story. So if you're like me and you get distracted easily, these tips might really help you in getting really stuck into your story. So let's go. Into the tips we go. Tip number one is listening to music, and yes, I know that's kind of a cliche tip, but it's a cliche for a reason. So for me personally, listening to a whole bunch of music actually isn't helpful. I have to listen to songs that I've never heard of before. That way I can kind of use those songs as kind of like a gateway into not just my story but my characters. I can kind of get a taste of like who they are as a person and sometimes their backstory. So listening to music that you've never heard of before is a great way of getting into the headspace of your story. Tip number two is blackout poetry. So if you don't know what blackout poetry is, it is you kind of grab a book that you're not going to read again and you grab a permanent marker and you just kind of go crazy. You just kind of do that to it. So to give you an example of what you can create is something like this. Cunning eyes observed a deep breaking, a terrible thing, the break, her killer, 100 terrible things. So yeah, you just kind of create your own little art form, and this is extremely helpful for me to get into characters' minds. And sometimes I can hear characters telling me something that I hadn't really ever thought of before. So I know I'm really sounding just crazy, but blackout poetry, highly recommend. Tip number three is kind of an obvious one. It is watch as much storytelling platforms as you can. So for me personally, I love to watch movies and TV shows because I love visual storytelling. I mean, I'm not against literature and plays and stuff like that, but I don't know, just something about on-screen stories just really get me hooked. So I love kind of just analyzing characters on screen. But sometimes it's not the characters that I'm looking at on the screen. Sometimes it's actually the credits, because in the credits I've found that surnames are really, really cool and they're really, really strange, and I've seen a surname in one of the shows that I've watched and I just kind of plucked it out and given it to a character of my own, and it's kind of just generated so much material from that one word. So keep an eye out for characters and words on screen. It's just really helpful. Hopefully this is helpful. I don't know. Tip number four is world building related, because my last three tips have been very character centered because I'm a very character driven writer. So I thought that I'd put in a world building tip. Fourth tip is to immerse yourself in somewhere completely foreign to you. So somewhere very out of your comfort zone. And I did this 2 months ago. I went on a family holiday to Indonesia and I was just kind of thrown into a landscape that was just so vastly different from where I come from. And so being in that environment, I really took note of what the people on the islands were telling me, the stories that they had about their culture and customs and their animals. And I really took note of, architecture. So yeah, being in those places that are very different from every normal day things that you would come across is really helpful. And there you go, 4 tips to get you into the headspace of your story. Hopefully this helped you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!